Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we kept doing intel missions, and we'll just keep knocking out intel. I don't have anything special planned. I figured I'd wait a little bit longer and then fire up another Void Crusade. And I haven't made a dent in my intel. Let's see, a Corn Purge, that's actually quite reasonable. Yeah, that works. Not doing the heat resist, I'll pick something else. Physical resist, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do the XP. It's not the greatest, but whatever. Hey, we get Ordo Xenos rep. Cool.
Between the stars, the ancient unseen enemies of mankind wait and hunger. Be strong and give them no quarter.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet now, not a lot of interesting stuff, at least as of recording. As per the usual, I expect to sit here, get this video recorded, and then probably tomorrow, some big 40K news is just gonna come tumbling out, and I'm gonna sit here and be like, oh, cool, that was real nice to have that happen the day after recording. It's honestly funny how often that happens, but it's whatever. I'm never too broken up over it. Plus, thanks to how I schedule these things, it honestly gives some of these things a chance to kind of expound and to essentially just, I was going to say elucidate, but that doesn't make anything easier to understand. Things get fleshed out more. Instead of reporting, one day, oh, this was said, I can wait a week, and maybe in that week whoever announces a thing will be like, oh, here's a little bit more information. And that's usually better and honestly kind of nice in general. Oh, I saw a video, Level Cap. He did a video on Battlefield talking about 2042, and he's like, hey, these games really need to start innovating and looking at some of the stuff they've done in the past and expanding on it. And I'm like, yeah, the previous games have done great things. They just, DICE is trying to chase trends and what have you. But the funny part was, Level Cap's like, oh, they could have mini missions for squads. So you'd load in and be given capture and hold Objective C for 3 minutes. And my first thought was, that's either going to be essentially a gimme objective because your team will stomp, or you're going to be getting stomped and it's a wasted objective because you're not going to be able, because I think of Operation Locker from Battlefield 4. You couldn't, if you got spawn camped, you couldn't break out to get around to capture any points. Op Locker was a death sentence. And it's just kind of absurd to have this mentality of oh, they could do that. Or he had said, what they could do is have, AI make objectives occasionally and have the best squads challenge each other, they each have to take Objective D. So they're fighting each other. And I was talking with a friend of mine about this, and he said that sounds like skill-based matchmaking, SBMM, mid-match. And I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, oh my god, it is? And that just sounds horrid. And I had mentioned, too, the fact that, let's say you do go with that kind of design, I've seen the top guy in the other team in Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1, and it's a pilot. Well, how do you have, a pilot, especially because the squads aren't forced? You can be in a solo empty squad. But how do you force the pilot to face off against potentially the other team's best squad if it's an infantry squad? Capture and hold an objective, well, that pilot's not landing. I've seen Battlefield pilots. They literally just do piloting. They will sit and wait in their spawn for a new vehicle to be available, rather than go on foot. So it's one of those things where I'm sitting there thinking, it's a waste. And I thought it was hilarious too, because he talked about like, oh, you could have the call-ins like they had in Battlefield 5 and 2042. And I realized something. Games have already done that, but better. Section 8. And Section 8 Prejudice, which, honestly, that was the worst name you could pick. You ever Google Section 8 Prejudice? You know what you get? Biases in low-income housing. Because that's what Section 8 is. Section 8 housing is low-income housing. And I sat there when I Googled it one time and I thought, God, they really didn't think about this name, huh? But Section 8 did that. Oh, wanting... Level Cap also mentioned side objectives with tangible rewards. Side objectives with tangible rewards? Mag did that. You want to call in a UAV, but you can't because there's AA in the area? Send a squad to go destroy the AA. Your enemy calling in UAVs or support, like, the spawn helicopters? Well, you could go repair the AA, and it would destroy them. There was a way... Other games did this stuff, but better. And so I had to laugh. Because it was that, and then he mentioned comparing it to stuff like Battle Royales, where there's that high-risk, high-reward kind of gameplay, and I sat there and said, but that's like Dust. Dust had high-risk, high-reward, because you could lose millions of credits on drop suits. You could go into the fight with the wrong fit and get stomped, or you could be overconfident. Oh, you got your proto gear, but 3 dudes in standard just melt you. Well, you just lost potentially 1 million ISK in one loadout against a bunch of dudes in borderline hobo fits who are maybe, if they're ballin', 100 grand, 200 grand. I got some shards and some codes. That's not bad. Still waiting to get another red one. Still missing one that's in the 10 shield energy HP per hit. That's the only one I have, and I'd kind of like to get a new one. Mostly because I don't know what they go into, and I'd rather have it on deck in case I need it for something. When I switch characters eventually, I'm going to have to gut all of this stuff and pull it out just so I can use it on another character. Movement speed and armored. Ugh. That's a combo I've never seen and don't like. Continuous warp damage, don't care. Gain 20 damage. Oh, ew. Let's just go in this no tarot, because I don't trust that bonus damage every minute.
This looks bad. Our navigator has gone half mad from the warp anomalies. We've detected several warp rifts in the area. The veil between the real space and the immaterium is fading. We have to stop this madness.
But the stuff with Battlefield, I just had to laugh because all these other games did what Level Cap's saying, but better. And I think about, once again, what Alan Moore had said. What he had said was to read bad books. Because as a writer, if you read only good books, you will end up cribbing stuff from them more often than not. And you become a lot more prone to making these references and even inadvertently ripping them off. But if you read bad books, you can find stuff and say, hey, this book is garbage, I can do better. And you can make your own version. You can see good ideas with bad execution. Same with games. Guys who have kind of dedicated themselves to Battlefield, or in the case of like this game, Diablo. Never play anything else. You don't play Grim Dawn, you don't play Martyr, you don't play... hell, I'm trying to think what else. Path of Exile. You don't play even Chaos Bane. Without touching those other games, you don't know what other ideas there are. There's always potential to learn something. And it's funny because in the case of like Level Cap, by not actually referencing other games outside the Battlefield franchise, it narrows the scope of what he thinks of, or what anyone can think of, for a solution. Because you only have that one option. You look at how the call-ins were done in Battlefield 5 and 2042, and you're like, oh, well, just that. You don't look at something like Section 8. Oh, well, they had the stuff comes flying down from a drop ship, and you can call in stuff, or even Section 8's dynamic combat missions as side objectives. Just getting a report, oh, hey, there's a bunker in the area. Go defend it for 2 minutes. Well, there you go. Tangible reward. You get a bunker. Side objective, you can completely ignore it and focus on still capping. And that was the other thing, was with the implementation of side objectives, when I was talking with my friend, we had sat there and he had said, yeah, the problem is people will ignore them. Which is very true. People absolutely will ignore them. People, we've all seen it, people are gung-ho for kills. They don't care. If it is do the objective and win, or get kills and die, people will just get kills and die. That is how laser focused they are on the wrong thing. And as a result, you'd have all these side objectives that either contribute points, and depending on the rate, either aren't worth actually doing, or they're too good, and then the domination aspect gets ignored. Or, better option here, is you make a mode that's just side objectives. Any positions you capture are just spawn points. But then I thought about it while we were talking, and I said, did we just reinvent the Warzone mode from Killzone? And we sat there and thought about it, and he said, yeah, we just reinvented like a mode that's been in Killzone since like Killzone 2. Which, as a side note, man, I miss Killzone. I miss Killzone so much. People give Killzone 2 a lot of crap because it had like 7 classes for multiplayer, but the only reason it was bad was because there weren't enough guns. You get like 2 weapons and the game's like, yeah, that's it, moving on. But if you used Shadowfall as kind of the framework, at least then you'd have some attachments, you could mix stuff up. And there are old weapons from Killzone that never came forward, like a flamethrower. I know I must be an anomaly, but I love flamethrowers. I think they're the coolest thing in games. They're always underpowered, like horrendously underpowered compared to real life, because an actual flamethrower will shoot a jet of flame a good 100 feet. People forget those backpack tanks. If you use like the old M2s and essentially the only flamethrowers that were ever used in the military, it's 2 big tanks and then a smaller tank nestled between the 2 bigger ones. That smaller one is essentially propellant. I can't remember if it's nitrogen. No, it's not. Oh god, yeah, because no, it isn't nitrogen. I think it's something I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a propellant. And that first bout of flame is your strongest shot. They get shorter and weaker as the propellant gets used up, because obviously there's less to push the burning fuel out. But so they could add something like that. I've wanted flamethrowers in games forever. I loved Black Ops 1, the undermount flamethrower. It was kinda crap. It was good initially because no one knew how to counter it, and then everybody started wearing flak jacket and it became garbage. But initially, I used to play at the same friend's house because he had Black Ops on PlayStation, and I'd always be like, let me make a class. And he knew every time. I'd grab some weapon, and there was an undermount flamethrower on that, and I was a menace. I was the most annoying person, because the second I'd see a dude, I'd just start torching a room. And they're fun. They're good room clearers. And they have the psychological effect of, if you can't see, or if you just start taking damage, people panic. And man, that is a very powerful tool. Panic is one of the most useful weapons in any shooter arsenal. And people tend to forget that. Sometimes you gotta psyop your enemy a little bit. But it worked.
But reality is still bleeding into the warp.
I remember for Mag, I started working on a document of like a Mag 2 probably 10 years ago. And I've had it with me ever since, moving it from computer to computer, expanding on things, shrinking on things, adjusting. And one of the first things I added was a flamethrower. Oh, and another thing that I really can commend is Call of Duty Ghosts. People give it a lot of crap, but one of the best things about that game was I think it was the chainsaw LMG. It's like it's like an M24 or something, M249 or M240. But it's got a KAC, Knights Armament Company, chainsaw grip. And you could put an undermount grenade launcher on it. And that is something I always wanted. I've wanted undermount grenade launchers on LMGs and shotguns in games for ages. And I always see people like, well, why would you want that? Because it has a friggin' rail. If I want to be the idiot with a shotgun and an undermount shotgun, let me be that idiot. I will do it with gusto. Let me make stupid builds so I can be a menace. Or an idiot. I don't really care. I'll be either or. I'll be both. Get you a man who can do both. Be a menace and be a moron. But yeah, it's just... people really have to kind of step out of the narrow bandwidth of games and look at everything in a genre to really evolve a game. Because I've been seeing a lot of stuff where it's more iterative than it is actually innovative. And not even iterative in a good way, which is really sad because it's pretty easy to just add something new.
We were on the verge of a cataclysm, but the day is saved. It's time to
I'm glad I did not die during that because I zoned out and then I looked at my health and it was low. I was like, oh, that's not a good sign. That shouldn't look like that. Nah, that's fine. I didn't expect good rewards. I was about to say, oh, I didn't get anything, but yeah, I didn't have tarot for that. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.